7 on BBC Coventry and Warwickshire. Now, it'll be the biggest rebuilding project in Coventry for half a century, and you are being asked to get involved. People want your views on what your city centre should look like. One of the world's leading firms of architects is being appointed to transform Coventry city centre. Jerde is the company which will create the new vision. They're due to be officially appointed at a council meeting tomorrow. I'm now joined, I'm pleased to say, by their Associate Vice President, David Sheldon, who joins me from his office in Amsterdam. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Liz. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And that's not a lie. We've just been talking about lies.
Yeah, I know that was a bit discerning, hearing that we have 4 lies a day. So let's keep that all to a minimum.
Okay, let's be dead honest with each other for the next 5 minutes or so.
There you go.
What did you think? So here we go with the killer question, which you've now got to answer very candidly. When you first came to Coventry, what did you think?
Well, you know, my first feeling when I walked through the streets of Coventry was that there was a tremendous amount of potential. That was very, very clear to us when we first walked through. However, when we saw that potential, it was sort of matched with a lot of disconnectedness. We felt that the city was turned inward on itself. There weren't a lot of opportunities to connect districts within the city to each other to really maximize the pedestrian or the citizens' ability to enjoy the space or to walk through it. So our feeling was you couldn't miss the air of possibility, but at the same time we recognized a lot of challenges.
So it's a mess.
I wouldn't go so far as to call it a mess. We've seen worse, but it's a challenge indeed.
It's a hodgepodge. It's disjointed.
It is disjointed. I think one of the biggest thing that we saw was how a lot of the developments were really turned inward on themselves, as I mentioned, and that becomes a hodgepodge. So if you're a visitor walking through the city of Coventry, you will walk into a development or a retail shopping center or a restaurant, and as you walk into a beautiful front entry of any of those, on your backside will be a back-of-house service entry with parking vans and delivery trucks coming in and out. And so there really isn't a good sense of place for people.
There's no real centre to it, is there? There's no focal points.
Yeah, that's true. And there are obviously quite a lot of districts, with the historic district, with the retail district, with the university district. But there really isn't a heart. And so really one of our missions is to create a communal space where everyone can come together, and we think that can significantly enhance the economic value and the longevity or the endurance of the city. That's our real goal.
Hallelujah. First time I came here, well, it's not the first time I came here years and years ago, but first time I came here to work for the BBC, and I said to the council on air that my first impression was that they should bulldoze most of the city centre and create a huge plaza like you get in continental cities like Milan or Parma and Mallorca. Well, you could go on and on and on. Hamburg. Somewhere where there is a focal point where people can congregate and interact and hang out and sit at cafe bars, especially as the climate's supposed to be improving, and just generally mingle, because at the moment there isn't the facility for that. It seemed to me that was my first impression.
That's right, and we have to face it. People attract other people. So if we can create a place that is interesting or exciting or, more importantly, comfortable for people, that will continue to be a catalyst for further development, for further growth, really for just generally the citizens and visitors to feel comfortable and excited about their place.
When you say you saw it had potential, what does that mean?
Well, obviously, there is a tremendous history in the city of Coventry, dating back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. If we sort of look at the city map every 100 years for the last 500 years, you see quite an interesting growth pattern in the floor plan of the city. We see that general floor plan is still intact in a sense, and one of the things that we'll be looking at when we really begin our design process is how to take what we've seen in the history, which was a really rich quite one of the most historic cities in the UK, as we understand it, really take that and project it into the future. So there are a lot of specific areas. We think that the historic district, the university district, but really the retail district of bringing people together for commerce, and as you said, having people sitting in plazas, drinking a coffee, enjoying being outside and enjoying being in the heart of the city. These are all the big potentials. Now, obviously, there are a lot of specific buildings and specific plazas and districts that have really rich texture and fabric, and we'll look to connect to those specifically as well. But generally, it's just the overall potential of connectedness, really.
Is it a very difficult job when you do have buildings which you have to recognise as being valuable, historically, culturally, everything else? And
well,
maybe commercially, you may get somebody who wants to hang on to their building for grim death. Is it really a constraint on your creativity?
I wouldn't call it a constraint. I would actually flip it and call it an opportunity. I think that what we don't in fact want to do, and I know your first impression of bulldozing is I can understand how you'd feel that way. But what we really do want to do is really keep Coventry. Obviously, we want to change it, and we want to refine it, and we want to project it into the future, and we want to make it more open and more comfortable. But I think that a lot of the existing assets, if you will, I think that these buildings, we should consider them as opportunities and assets and maximize our potential.
Oh, yeah, I just meant you can't sort of do exactly what you want to do because you have to fit things around each other. Anyway, what about the ring road? Is that going?
Well, it's something that we haven't gotten into yet at this point, but we're going to begin looking at really, really carefully as we start our process.
Okay. Now, I'll just have to ask you this. Please don't take offence. But why, David, why should we trust you when many of the eyesores in Coventry and many of the dysfunctional areas and hodgepodge designs and non-interlinking zones have been created by your profession in the past?
That's a great question. Well, I think within our industries we all have our ups and downs, but architecturally or planning speaking, we've been developing a really strong relationship with the Coventry City Council, with several private developers within the city, and really getting to know Coventry for over the last year. And what we do as the Jury Partnership is really look at international regionalism, and that's what that really means to us is taking a global approach for design, whether it be planning a city of 200,000 people or a project of 100,000 square feet, taking a global approach. But the regionalism aspect is really focusing in on what the core cultural aspects are of our host city, if you will. So really looking at what these opportunities are within Coventry and figuring out how to match that with the bigger ideas of really projecting the city into the future. And in terms of trusting us, well, we've been doing this for quite some time, and feel very comfortable coming into your city and really appeasing the likings of the people to project the city into the future.
Okay, so it was a genuine yet flippant question. I remember going to Berlin with my friend, a lifelong friend who's an architect, and we went to, this is before the wall came down, the Berlin Wall.
Sure.
And we went to the eastern side, which was full of beautiful buildings, which have been preserved in eastern Germany. And we went to, obviously we're in West Berlin, which was all 60s office blocks, etc. And my friend declared that the Berlin Wall had actually been erected to keep the architects out.
Well, that again goes back to the industry challenge. I think
it was bad in the 60s. It was a bad period, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think generally, architects and planners, we're responsible for all the happiness that everyone has in the world on a day-to-day basis, and unfortunately, there are some blemishes on the record in the industry. But no, we like to think that at this point we're all coming in with fresh eyes to really make improvements.
It's very exciting. And next time you come to Coventry, perhaps you could take us for a walk round and point out some of your vision, if you'd do that for us.
Absolutely. We would look forward to that, Liz, and we think we really think it's a great opportunity, and we're looking forward to the next, really the years of growth and watching the city redevelop.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, David Sheldon. And we'll see you soon in Coventry. David Sheldon from Amsterdam, from the company Jerde, which Coventry City Council are due to officially appoint as architects for this £1 billion project at the council meeting tomorrow. Your views, please. What do you want for your city? There will